So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and I. Hope you enjoyed listening to us provide our lists of our top 5 favorite action movie protagonists. And we gave you some good recommendations if you haven't seen some of the movies to go back and visit their respective catalogs. So, now for episode 116 of Eazy Conversations, I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. So what's up to the people?
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great time right now. It's summer. We should all be having fun. And tonight we have some fun for you guys. We will be discussing one of my favorite film directors in his career. Eric, why don't you tell the people who that person is?
Yep, exactly. So for this one, we're going to be going over Christopher Nolan, revered director's filmography, talking about his style, and the various tactics that he uses in making his film that make them so recognizable and iconic for the most part. And we're going to be beginning going over his movies by going over his latest film that was released a week ago, recording today, which would be Oppenheimer. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. It's been hyped up for many years now, and it was that alongside Barbie make one respective half each of Barbenheimer. Maybe we'll get into Barbie in a future episode. I have not seen it at this point in time, so I couldn't really say much. However, I have seen Oppenheimer, and if you'll recall, in the last episode I said that Oppenheimer had flop potential, and I'll provide my reasoning in that. Again, when there's so much hype for these, be it a movie, an album, a TV show, sometimes that ends up being a destructive path that overhypes certain items of content and make it so that they have these impossible standards to live up to, and quite often they miss the mark on how they're built up. So Oppenheimer had this massive cast. It's Christopher Nolan, a lot of well-known actors and revered actors. So that's why I kind of saw it as something that had the potential to disappoint. Now I've seen it, and I can firmly say that it was not a flop. It did not disappoint. It's a great movie. It would be opening thoughts, just really blanket. And of course, we're going to be spoiling this movie. So if you haven't seen Oppenheimer, maybe run down to the theater, watch it in 70mm film in IMAX if you can, and then come back. So yeah, opening thoughts are Oppenheimer, not a flop, can confirm, and great movie. I thought the running time was justified. Like, it did not really feel that long. Like, I was trying to think about parts that I could maybe cut, and there weren't really many. I thought everything in the movie was justified, and it helped to build up to this like the culmination of all the events in the movie. And yeah, because it's a fast moving movie, I think all the quick cuts and the edits moving from one place to the next, jumping years at times, made for although a long running time, a very good paced movie. So I know I said a lot there, Matt. I'd throw it over to you. What were your thoughts on Oppenheimer, opening thoughts?
Yeah, you said a lot of good stuff, Eric. Stuff that I'm going to touch upon too. But no, opening thoughts is, I thought it was a great movie as well. Not near like the Mount Rushmore of Nolan films, but like in the middle. Certainly not his worst. I like the narrative, the non-linear narrative, jumping back and forth. It kept the 3-hour pace going. Like it kept the quick pace for the movie, which I enjoyed. I like jumping back and forth. I know it confused a lot of some people, but I like stuff like that. What I loved about this movie the most, though, was the acting. Top-notch acting. Like, every minor little character that has a throwaway line of dialogue is like a recognizable face. Like, everyone jumps at the opportunity to be in a Nolan movie. It was like spotting all these actors in the background. It was fun. This movie, it couldn't have been done without Cillian Murphy. Let's talk about him for a second, Eric. The man's a phenomenal actor. Been in like 4 other Nolan movies. Kills it as Robert Oppenheimer. So good. I know while he was shooting the movie, he was like distanced himself a lot from the actors and didn't want to like join in celebrations. He was super focused to do this role. A lot of studying going on. He's kind of if you've seen Cillian Murphy in interviews, he's kind of like doesn't like share any information, doesn't give away any information for free. He's very reserved, proud Irishman. He's very he's just a quiet man, in my opinion, and he was perfect as Oppenheimer. So we'll touch. What did you before I pass it on to you for your thoughts on Cillian Murphy? Overall, a really great movie, an epic, really, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would agree. Cillian Murphy obviously stole the show as is it J. Robert Oppenheimer or Robert J. Oppenheimer? I'm not really sure, but he crushed it in the role. Always captivated your full attention while he was on the screen. How he carried himself as this larger than life character, completely embodied the role perfectly, and yeah, just a very dynamic character, serious and not very funny, which was fine by me. Honestly, didn't really need the humor in this movie. It didn't really fit the tone of this movie to begin with, so you definitely can excuse it. And for me, the jumping back and forth between different timelines, which is a classic Nolan. He doesn't really tell his movies in a linear fashion. He likes to either start at the end, work our way back, presenting new information, and then flipping what we saw at the beginning of the movie. And the usage of the different colors in the movie as well, like the black and white scenes and the in color scenes, which represent different things as well. But I was always able to follow along for, I'd say, like at least 80 to 90% of the time what was occurring when. And that what helped me out a lot was Cillian Murphy's hair in a lot of his different scenes. Like I knew, okay, he had the long hair when he was a student. Now he's trimmed it up a little bit. He's graduated. Now he's building this team. Like it was a bit easier to follow in that sense by following the hair. I'm sure any barber watching can sympathize with that. And yeah, I thought he was the stole the show. The next man up, I would say, would be Robert Downey Jr. as Strauss. Was a big fan of his character. Unsure which way they were going with him until later on in the movie when they obviously reveal what his motivations are towards Oppenheimer. But I love how they presented all of that for the plot. And me going into the movie, I had seen little teases of the movie, but don't recall watching a full trailer for Oppenheimer. So I didn't know that the focus of the movie would be the trial to determine whether or not Oppenheimer was a Soviet spy or not. I had no idea he had any ties to the Communist Party and had sympathizers with that ideology. So all of this I was like, going in completely blind with. And yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what the resolution would be either, not knowing much about Oppenheimer in general. I didn't know if he was going to go down or if he would end up on top at the end, because they're kind of making it seem like something really bad was going to happen to him. Like from the onset of the movie, when Strauss is I'm not sure if it was an official trial or not, to be honest, but when he's answering questions from that committee, it made it sound like either Oppenheimer was dead or he had done something extremely troublesome against the United States. So the movie had me captivated the whole time, and it was, like you said, largely due to the acting in the movie. The performances overall by everyone were unbelievable. Amazing dialogue. Those would be the biggest strengths of the movie for me. Dialogue, acting, how they're able to hook you in and want to know, okay, who's in the wrong here, like who's the spy, where does Oppenheimer's allegiance lie, all that. Like, it was a great movie. And I also agree with you too. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Nolan movies, but it's a great movie and upper echelon, but not top. And I'll probably break that down later in the episode, like where I'd rank his other movies compared to this.
Yeah, for sure. You said a lot of good things. What captivated me, intrigued every scene was, I didn't know anything about Oppenheimer either before watching this movie. So I'm learning historical stuff here about objectively one of the most important men of the 20th century, right? Changed the face of the world, maybe the most important man. I didn't know anything about his life, so it was cool going on like, okay, he's a bit of a ladies' man, and a bit is an understatement. Seeing his communist stuff, I didn't know any of that too, so that kept the running time. It didn't feel long at all. Love the trial, loved the little like kangaroo court in that little closet room with Jason Clarke's character playing the lawyer, like grilling him, like loved all that stuff. Only getting the whole picture as the movie's progressing and by the end you realize like what's going on with Strauss, what's going on with Oppenheimer and his trial 10 years before that, and then the the pre-atomic bomb stuff too. Robert Downey Jr. He was amazing. I always knew he was a good actor because I've seen him in other roles other than his Marvel movies, but he brought it to another level, and he's quite proud of this performance. I know he said that like he thinks it's his best performance and it's different than any Marvel movie he's done. He's very proud of this, as he should be. But almost unrecognizable in like the makeup too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the real life. I like the fact that in the movie there were like real life scientists like Einstein and Niels Bohr and like everyone's based on a real person basically. And I kind of like that it had more like gravitas and more important. It felt really important, you know. Everything leading up to that testing of the Trinity prototype bomb, I think they called it. Like that was so cool. Nolan's filming style, like he shot everything on film, no CGI. He said there's not an ounce of CGI in the movie. Gotta respect him for that. All the close-ups, Cillian's perception of things, like when he's stressed or anxious, love that stuff. You know, and that scene in like the when he's giving the speech, like they're giving him like an applause and an ovation. Eric, that was amazing. I love that stuff. Did you think? Yeah. Just lastly, did you like? I didn't know what the climax or culmination of the movie was going to be. Like, I didn't even know if we were going to see maybe the two atomic bombs hitting Japan or the test was going to be the last few scenes. But I kind of like that it wasn't the very end, but it ended with like a conclusion on his life where eventually he gets all the accolades and he's an old man and he gets all the praise, but not before getting put through the ringer from the government. And Einstein said that would happen too. So did you like that like more quieter conclusion, or would you have liked more of an epic, something more with bombs or something? I don't know. What do you think of the last act of the movie?
No, I think the conclusion was perfect, honestly, because me too, I had a hard time gauging how much time had passed when I was in the theater. Everything building up to the atomic bomb going off, like their test there, definitely had finale vibes because of the build up, and then you know it's gonna work. Obviously, I had a feeling it would, anyways, in the test environment, and then the deafening silence and just how much time they spent on. Okay, like this is how catastrophic or the impact that this bomb could have, how impressive it is. It could have ended around there, honestly, and then we see. I don't think we needed to see the two bombings in Japan. Also, I think that was a good decision. Like we all knew it was gonna work, and that was gonna be the outcome. Anyways, we knew that that's what was gonna happen. So I don't think it was necessary to show it. I like that they didn't, honestly. I like that they focused more on, like you said, the trauma and the aftermath that it had on Oppenheimer, and then going through the procedural court plot to wrap that all up and focus more on Oppenheimer again, which like, it's his movie, right? It's a biopic, I guess. And I actually loved the ending. The conversation too, all the way with Einstein at the end, finally getting to see that, and just how often they called back on that scene. And then when I forget the actor's name, the guy who plays Han Solo in Solo says like, oh, you know, maybe they weren't even talking about you at all when he says that to Strauss, and then sure enough they weren't. Just so egotistical, I guess. Like he's thinking, like, oh, he must have. All those scientists are against me. It was great. And then just the conversation about talking about how impactful their work could become and how it's going to change the world. And then that lingering shot on Cillian Murphy, just showing like the fear in his eyes and the realization of what he could do to the world, and how it won't be the same once his work is done. There's, I think, a lot to unpack there, honestly. I may be off in my analysis of it there, but I loved the ending. I did not feel disappointed when the curtains went down and the lights came on, but yeah, I mean, great pace to the movie, like I said. There was, and those scenes in court were electric too, both with Strauss and with Oppenheimer, when Emily Blunt, like his wife, goes at it with the lawyer, who again, keep calling back the Planet of the Apes movies. He plays Malcolm in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the lawyer, anyways. So he was great. I loved all his scenes when he and all the different characters were kind of put under the spotlight or going back and forth. It was always very felt claustrophobic, and the intensity kept ramping up with the music and the lights flickering and the very bright scenes. I thought Oppenheimer was gonna crack a couple of times, honestly. Like, he kept his composure for the most part. I thought they were gonna get to him and he was just gonna break down in that scene at some point. But I'm glad that he got the win at the end, but it's to be contested whether or not it's a good ending though, right, in this movie.
Yeah.
So, and there's like the hydrogen bomb stuff. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
Eric, I love what you said that saying does he have regret, or did basically the whole movie focuses on the moral and ethics of what he's doing, and he's such a fascinating individual, Oppenheimer is, because I found it weird, he's attending all these communist meetings and he's open to ideas. He's a very thoughtful individual, very smart, but I question sometimes why is he getting involved with this? Is he that open-minded? Why is he why is he cheating on his girlfriends and wife? And but then and on the other end too, he's all in for building a bomb, the Germans are going to do it anyway, might as well beat him to it. But then after the regret, seeing all that stuff was amazing, his doubt, and he's trying to justify, I built it, but I kind of he's got all this baggage on it, and he even talks to President Truman about it, and Truman's like, listen, I'm the one who actually gave the order to drop the bomb. It's not on your conscience. Get over it, you chicken, or something. He dismisses him, but that's literally half the movie is Oppenheimer coming to terms with what he's done, and it's so cool to watch, and you just see it in his eyes. Cillian Murphy's super expressive eyes and face. He does a perfect job of that in this movie. That was so cool. He should be nominated for an Oscar. Just acting without saying words. It's amazing. It was cool to see him trying to draw. Even Strauss and the other guy are talking about that a lot. Oppenheimer's trying to get both ways. Taking responsibility. Look how good of a scientist I am, but also skirting all the moral responsibility of having to you're the reason why all these people died and the earth is the way it is. I don't know. I love that little balance game. That was to me, that was the really good stuff. Also love the whole, building up the little city with Matt Damon. All the scenes with Matt Damon were great. All the logistics into going into the construction of the bomb. That was fun. Could have watched a whole movie just on that. But this movie delves even further and goes into the man's moral and ethics and his brain. And that's what really stuck with me in the movie, was I didn't know he was going to go that. I haven't seen any trailer like you, so that really stuck with me, Eric. And it's a movie I could rewatch because of that. I think there's lots of things you can notice on rewatch, but loved all that stuff. That was a big highlight for me.
I'd agree. And it was interesting to see how conflicted he was about, he was all in on making the bomb, and then even when they had their little, I don't know if it was a rally, but just powwow about when the Nazis had surrendered and they hadn't used the bomb, and it seemed like everyone was oh, we don't need to use the bomb, we won, and he wanted to use it. That's how I interpreted that. And then it's just interesting how when he did, he then felt the regret, which you'd think he'd be aware of what he was doing when he made the bomb and then wanting to follow through with it. So there are definitely some very curious things there, but it would make sense though that someone in that position might not always be single-minded and fully committed to their cause and not have any doubts whatsoever. It does happen where some leaders in history were extremely convicted and knew what they wanted, whether it was right or wrong is to be contested, but he was not like that, it seems. And it was interesting to see him in the Communist Party and all his activities with them. And I didn't really always know where his allegiances lied, to be honest. That's what kept us guessing throughout the movie and made for a captivating storyline. I agree with the building of the town as well. It was super cool and fun to see them test and make progress and talk about the different options for making their bomb and how that would look like. Matt Damon, good character, definitely a comic relief, I'd say, but I think it worked. His jokes weren't really cringy. In the trailer, I had seen one of the lines where he talks to one of the scientists saying, because what we're doing right now is the most important thing in all of human time, or something like that. And I remember seeing Fast 10 with our cousin Sarah, and she just started laughing at that line, just clowning it. But in the context of the movie, it worked. I think there was an F-bomb in there too, so it made it a little funnier. So it was just interesting to see how a line that seems serious can be funny, but then in the movie is actually what it's supposed to be, which is serious. But he did have other funny moments. That there are a few people in my theater, anyways, who were cackling at some of his lines, and like me, it was like sometimes like chuckling and stuff. But people found him really funny, so I think he was good to have to dilute the seriousness of the movie overall. Without him, it could have been a very grim movie because I don't think there was anyone else really bringing the heat, comedically speaking. That is.
Yeah, Matt Damon was a great choice. What was I going to say? He was kind of like everyone else was always like we're surrounded by scientists. Everyone's so freaking serious in the movie, and Matt Damon just brings it more to like a realistic, like, okay, we need to get all this going, and he doesn't say anything like hilarious. He's just the way he says it and his directness is hilarious. And what was I going to say? Okay, the sequence where they count down to do their main test, like that whole night where they're waiting for the rain to let up, and Oppenheimer's like, I need my brother out here, he knows this land better than anybody, like all of that, like that 30-40 minutes of the movie was the best part of the movie in my opinion. It was like that last minute countdown was goosebump inducing, and it was I loved it. It was beautiful cinema. That's all there's nothing else to say for that. Like it's movie magic right there. It's like a clip that you could show like down the road in a clip show of like best movies of the last 30-20 years, you know. And then like the no sound was a good call actually. I don't know if that's because like the sound traveled a little slower, right? It was so far away, and then they only got the sound after. But anyways, I'm not a scientist, but that was really cool. Was it at all? Truthfully, was it at all a little jarring to see like all the minor characters be recognizable like character actors, or was that's fine because if you can do it, why not, right?
Yeah, like you're asking if it was jarring for me.
Like, was it distracting to see every single like minor character be an actor? Like, I recognize a lot of actors from like TV shows and old movies and like random ass actors. I'm like, I think it was good because you get the best actors available, but it was like, did it distract you at all?
Yeah, for sure. Like, no, it didn't distract me. I was always like, hey, that guy or that girl. Like, I was always pumped to see an actor that I recognize. And obviously, I didn't really know, for the most part, who they were playing and portraying. So I was just like, okay, Rami Malek is now... I didn't think he was going to talk the whole movie, honestly. And I was actually... I would have found that hilarious if you cast Rami Malek and he doesn't say a word the whole movie. That would have been hysterical. But... No, it didn't distract me. Didn't take me out of the viewing experience at all. Honestly, like I said, I enjoyed it. There's some who I didn't even recognize when I watched the movie. Like Gary Oldman apparently was in it. Didn't even notice. And I'm sure there's a few others that I completely missed. Sean Avery apparently is in the movie. Missed him. Yeah. So there's a few others like that. And what was I gonna say? Yeah. Okay, so for best parts of the movie, it's very tough to say for me, honestly. Like, the bomb going off was a highlight, but there's so many sequences I remember just thinking in real time, like, okay, like, we're in a scene right now. Like, this is cinema. Just because of how the music was accelerating, the pace of the songs were heating up, the cuts were going quick, the dialogue was extremely intense. So all those little factors played into making a beautiful scene that just had you hooked in the moment. And there were quite a few of those scenes in the movie. One of them that I can recall is the Casey Affleck scene was phenomenal. Just going back and forth in the two different timelines when they're recalling who said what, and he's trying to extract information from Cillian Murphy, who's trying to dodge his questions and not reveal who his acquaintances would be that he might be trying to get. Again, there's for sure some stuff in those scenes that went over my head, but I still remember watching that scene being like, oh, like what's gonna happen here? Like, is he gonna misstep in this verbal joust? Like, I didn't really know where it was going, but I loved it. And yeah, there's a few other scenes here. I already talked about the cross examination of Oppenheimer with the lawyer. So there's so many great scenes like that, and that's really what I remember of Oppenheimer is the great scenes of dialogue and the acting clinics by pretty much everybody. Like, no weak links in this movie. Tough to say who the best was. Probably Cillian Murphy, honestly. But I think everyone in this one completely did their thing, and there should be a few nominations. Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., maybe Matt Damon in a supporting role, maybe, but I do feel like his role didn't exert too much out of him. It was pretty much a comfort zone role. I feel like it was the same role he played that he did in Air, just maybe a different role, a different title.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, Oppenheimer was... I'm glad it was a great movie. I don't know when is the next time I'm going to see it. Like you, I agree. There's for sure more to pick up on a second viewing. Probably not going to go see it in theaters again. It's funny because I saw it with Zach and one of our friends. And at the end of the movie, I was talking to Zach about it, and I said, like, oh, like, I'm sure there's a lot more to pick up on second viewing. I'm excited to see it again. And he said, like, I don't ever want to see this again. Like, it was a great movie, but I'm good. I got the gist of it. Like, that's it. I'm like, all right, fair enough. Honestly, it's a long movie. It's a full commit. And it's true. It's not really complicated. It's pretty straightforward. But knowing how it resolves itself, it would be interesting to see if you can pick up on other things that would hint towards, like, okay, like, this is what this person did. This is why they're looking into this person thinking they're a spy kind of thing. So, yeah. I'll watch it one day on Crave or something.
I understand what Zach's saying. There's some great movies I've watched that I will never rewatch again either. But
I think for a different reason, though. I think it's not the same reason as you there. Like, not to preserve. Okay. Who knows? I don't want to speak for him, but yeah.
I'll ask him myself, I guess. Lastly, I loved the part with when Robert Downey Jr.'s Strauss character is so, like, confident he's going to get the cabinet position, and this is not even a trial, they're just asking questions. His mood changing throughout the movie, the more is revealed, the more questions get asked. I love that stuff, and, like, he's he's confident at first, and then he turns into, like, holy crap, like, it's going to come down to a vote, it's going to be tight, and him ultimately not getting it. Like, that was super fun to watch, and then again, we had to wait for the whole movie for that plot line to get resolved because it's intercut with other stuff, which again kept the movie fresh and engaging. But no, Downey Jr. was amazing. I just want to reiterate that. The movie is probably going to be better when I rewatch it, actually, because like, the Casey Affleck scene, completely forgot about it, escaped my brain. But now that when I'm going to rewatch it, I'm going to pick up on all the things I've missed. It's a really great biopic about a super fascinating individual, very important man who changed the face of history to this day. Like, he'll always be remembered. And Nolan did a great job directing and storytelling here, and great effects, great acting. Very solid movie. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. Probably can maybe jump up to 4.5 one day. But I was very, very pleased with the movie, and I enjoyed it very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. I didn't give it a rating on Letterboxd because I didn't want you to see what I thought of it. And I was hoping to not see yours there, but I did see what you gave it. But I would also say a 4. Like, I would say 4 as well. And with maybe potential to go up to 4.5, but I wouldn't go 5 stars for this. A podcast I listened to, actually, one of the guys said this is his 13th movie he's given 100 out of 100 to. I think that's a bit aggressive, honestly, but I mean, it's all subjective, right? Like, everyone has their things that they like to see in movies, and if that fits that need for you, then right on. For me, I think 4 stars is accurate, but we'll see down the road. For me, that's pretty much all I'd have to say on Oppenheimer, honestly. It'd be good to move on to some of Christopher Nolan's other movies, who, as I was going through his filmography the other day, I'm like, This guy is like some of my favorite movies overall, and a lot of very, very good movies. I actually
Hmm.
went and did a quick tier of how I would rank his movies, and there are no. If you're watching on YouTube, I have it up there, just my personal list there. We don't need to go through it and make our collective list together, Matt, there, but I can just read off how I have his movies. So this tier had amazing, great, good, and then a few others. I put no movies below good. I think all of his movies are good at a baseline. That being said, I haven't seen The Following, and I think there's another movie that I haven't seen. So I put Dunkirk, Tenet, Dark Knight Rises, and Inception as good. Memento,
Whoa.
The Prestige, and Oppenheimer as great. Dark Knight, Interstellar, Batman Begins, amazing. So maybe that's a stretch for Batman
Whoa.
Begins, but I love that movie. That's just rapid fire thoughts. And Inception, good. I think I want to start there for myself, anyways, because I've said it on the pod
Crazy.
before, but people love Inception. I think it's overrated, honestly. I think it's, like I said, it's a good movie, but I don't think it's the end all be all of cinema. Similarly to how you think that some people have Dark Knight as the best movie of all time. That's how I would say. That's what I would say for Inception. I think it's a like it's a smart movie, but I think it thinks it's smarter than it is, and
Okay.
to its detriment, I want to say. It's a cool concept, like dream hunting and going through the different layers of the subconscious, but I've seen it a few times. I enjoy it less every time I watch it too, and I have no real interest in going back to it. So, let me my thoughts on Inception, which I've already said on the pod, but just for new listeners or people who wanted to hear what we thought about it, the Oppenheimer Nolan movies, like you might be disgusted hearing me say this, but that's how I feel.
Uh, when I saw Inception at the theater, I thought it was one of the best movies I had ever seen. Great theater experience, edge of my seat, freaking barely breathing. It was so like to count down everything. Upon rewatching it two, three more times, yes, it's not one of the best movies I've ever seen. Um, I really like Inception though, Eric. I'd put it in as like not amazing, but the great, um, or the second tier of his movies,
Yeah.
basically. I feel he does get better after Inception, but more on that later. No, okay, maybe it is pretentious and too smart for its own good. All the over explanation, like who the hell's supposed to understand that? Especially first time watch at the theater, no one understood jack shit in that movie. It was so complicated, and you're probably right with there might be plot holes and stuff like that. But anyways, if you buy into the story in the movie, it's super like edge of your seat, like with the time dilation and all that, like the van almost hitting the water, and that's like an hour of
Mm-hmm.
that, and then they go even further into like the brain. Anyways, I don't need to explain the movie. People know Inception. I thought it was great. Good characters, good actors. Um, an original concept. We had never seen that before. You know, like implanting an idea in someone's brain. Maybe suffers from not aging really well. I haven't seen it in a while either, Eric. So, but yeah, that's thoughts on Inception, in my opinion. Maybe it's the mystique, maybe its stigma has worn off, and we've seen better movies come after it. But like when that came out, man, everyone loved that.
I agree. I liked it a
That's
lot
my
the first time
thoughts.
I saw it for sure. I was a big fan of it, but I do think upon further rewatch hasn't aged as well. Kind of like Shutter Island for some reason. It makes me think of that. Like I was blown away the first time I saw that movie. And then I saw it the next time. I was like, okay, yeah. Like it's cool to pick up on things that you missed. Obviously, you wouldn't even know to think about for the first time. Twist doesn't hit as hard, and then maybe even the third time, I was like, all right, like I think I'm done watching this movie. So I would put Inception in the same category as Shutter Island there. But yeah, that's what kind of goes into your point of also maybe just wanting to see a movie once out of you're not sure what's gonna happen the second time you see it. And again, it's all subjective, but that's what will make a movie for some people amazing and then for others just good. It's based on how many times you've seen it and if it's either worn off on you or just continue to either stay at that same level or get better with rewatch. So there's no real right or wrong answer here. That's just my opinion on Inception. And I'm just looking at the other
Uh,
Nolan movies. Like the next one could maybe I know it's not really in order here, but I just watched it last night for the first time, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. The Prestige.
okay.
So I'd never seen this
Ooh.
before. Absolutely loved this movie, and a large part of it was due to the twist that kept coming. The rivalry between our two magicians, played by Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, I thought was super interesting. Great cast overall. Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, Rebecca Hall. I want to say the woman who plays Nora in Cheaper by the Dozen was in that as Hugh Jackman's wife, the assistant at first there. And yeah, I mean the twists at the end of that were crazy. I didn't see a lot of them coming. There's a few things that I was able to kind of see coming. I feel like it was kind of predictable there. The disappearing man, what he did at
Yeah.
the end with the machine, because they strongly hint at what the machine does. I don't want to spoil that for people who haven't seen it there, but great stuff at the end especially. Like I lost it.
Yeah.
So very good movie. And I have that higher than Oppenheimer. Like I enjoyed The Prestige more than Oppenheimer. And I think it's because it was more of a maybe straightforward, fun story that you really want to see, like which magician's gonna come out on top. So less of a thinker and likable character. Well, I mean, it kind of interesting about likable characters because I was actually more a fan of Hugh Jackman, but then there's times where I'm questioning, okay, like who am I rooting for here? So it was definitely interesting how they made your allegiance, you question your allegiance, kind of like Oppenheimer with his usage of the bomb or not using it. So what did you think of The Prestige, Matt?
The Prestige, I would say, is like Nolan's hidden gem. I love The Prestige.
Nice.
I put it higher than Oppenheimer too.
Nice.
I remember renting that when that came out. Didn't know anything about it. Loved it. Rewatched it the next night with my mom, and we're trying to see if she could figure out the twists. I won't spoil the movie either, because if you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. But some of those twists at the end completely floored me. I had no idea. Even though there's hints throughout the whole movie, you rewatch The Prestige, you'll see all the hints, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, how did I not see that? It's so obvious." But enough on that.
Yeah.
Love Michael Caine in it. I remember like the voice, like him like explaining things in the movie. Freaking Nolan loves Michael Caine too, as in almost all his movies. Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman are fantastic. Like Hugh Jackman's not just an action hero. He's a good actor too.
Mm-hmm.
Great rivalry. Both characters are flawed. They both have their idiosyncrasies. Like you get a lot of good character development. It's been over a decade since I've seen the movie, but some stuff still resonates. Like I still remember certain stuff, like specifically, and it's very powerful. Like I said, it's a hidden gem in my opinion. Like it's super highly rated, but people kind of stopped talking about it. And I remember when it came out, it had a big buzz. Like everyone was like talking about it at school. Like, did you rent this movie? It's really good. But back then, Nolan wasn't who he was now. This is what, like 06 or 08 maybe? No, 06. Anyways, doesn't matter. 06. Nolan wasn't who he was. He was just another director. In fact, people didn't talk about the movie as a Nolan movie because he didn't have that rep yet, because Dark Knight hadn't come out, right? So it was just a good magician movie. Aged super well too, because I think I've seen it 3-4 times now, but I haven't watched it in the last 10 years. Maybe I need to correct that. But no, it's a 4.5 star movie for me. It's great. Really good. A hidden gem.
I would agree with that, honestly. I do think it is a hidden gem. It's one that I didn't even know was a Nolan movie. It was just in talking about Christopher Nolan wanting to do this pod with people like, oh, you have to check out The Prestige. It's like you said, hidden gem movie. And could have been one that could have been mentioned in our hidden gem episode back in 2020 with Curtis and Bassam. So maybe if we do a part 2 to that episode, we could bring it up then. But yeah, it's on Disney Plus. I would say check it out if you haven't seen it. Awesome movie. And again, the nonlinear storytelling. You start at the end, or part of the end anyways. You work our way back. You alternate between timelines the whole time through notes and diaries. It's just amazing. I was captivated the whole time. They had my full attention. It was really good. I would really recommend. Is there a movie that you'd like to talk about, Matt, from Nolan's filmography?
Well, I can talk about the ones like Following you probably have not watched. Well, you already said you haven't watched it. Following is Nolan's first movie. It kind of feels like a student film and an art film at the same time. Very low budget, black and white. The movie picks up only halfway through the movie. I've only seen it once. I don't remember much, but it's very artsy and low budget. It's a low budget movie because he was not known. Like, this was his first entry for his filmography. But no, it's an interesting little experimental film, art film, student film, whatever you want to call it. Only a couple characters in the movie. You can see where his technique go. You can you see early on like how his technique's gonna evolve watching the movie Following. So it's worth watching just to see the origins of some of this stuff he still uses to this day.
Cool.
But it's not a movie I'd say run out and go see. There's other way better movies than that. But that's Following. His first movie from like 96, I think. I'm not too sure. But I'd say check it out if you're really bored, or if you're a Nolan completist, like you need to see everything he's done, check out Following.
Okay. Right on.
Have you seen it, Eric? Have you seen Insomnia?
No, that'd be the other one that I haven't seen of his.
Okay, then I'll just quickly talk about it then. Insomnia is probably his most director for hire type movie. It's based on a Swedish or Norwegian film from the 90s, so it's not even his idea. He didn't write it. He was just asked to direct, like a director for hire, like I said. The original is great. This movie is good too. It's exactly like the original. It's got Al Pacino, Robin Williams, what's her face from $1 Million Baby, Hilary Swank. It's a really good detective movie trying to catch a killer in a small town where the sun doesn't set. So it's Al Pacino can't sleep, hence the title Insomnia. You know, it's full sun 24/7. Good movie. Doesn't feel like a Nolan movie at all, though. It's just like another Hollywood movie from 2003. But it's got a good pace, and it's not boring at all. But that's Insomnia from 2003. But then you can see, like, after this movie was successful, his next movie, Batman Begins, I don't know if you want to, you can pick the next movie, Eric, but you can see, like, where he's picking up steam here and getting ready to unleash, like, what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. So what movie did you want to talk about next, Eric?
I mean, yeah, quickly going into the Batman trilogy there, Dark Knight trilogy, there are a few Nolan elements in the Batman Begins movie where, again, you're starting in, where do we start exactly in Batman Begins? We start in the past, and then you jump, we go in the past quite a bit in this one, seeing his journey to become Batman, and then seeing his struggles as Bruce Wayne as a child and then an adult. And then from the point on where he returns to Gotham as Batman, there's no more interaction in the past. And it pretty much is like a straightforward superhero movie. So unless I'm just blanking on something there, I don't really see any other Nolan-isms. It's just a good movie. I think Batman Begins is kind of disrespected when it comes to this trilogy. I think it's the second best one in there. For sure better than Dark Knight Rises, in my opinion. And obviously not as good as The Dark Knight, but still a great movie. You get great performances in there from everyone, pretty much. Like Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy. You get what's her name again? Kate.
Katie Holmes?
Katie Holmes, yeah. She's great as Rachel. It's too bad that they had to recast her. But, yeah, I mean, just a great movie. Batman Begins. Like, I have it in amazing, and just because, like, I've seen it so many times and it still hits every time. Liam Neeson, great as Ra's al Ghul. We don't, like, just keeping going, to continue on chronologically here. Dark Knight, don't really need to get into it, honestly. For me, I would say it is one of my favorite movies. It's a pretty mainstream pick, but it truly does live up to the hype, in my opinion. It gets better with time, too. I love watching it. The pacing is phenomenal. There's not a second to breathe. They're always moving from one location to the next, afraid of what the Joker's going to do next, rooting for Batman, and having to make difficult decisions along the way, forcing himself to go toe-to-toe with someone who's his equal, his foil in the Joker. Amazing movie, honestly. And then Dark Knight Rises. Like I said, it's the one I've seen the least of the three. I remember liking it a lot in theaters, but then after that I enjoyed it less, and I might have only seen it like another time after that, so 3 times in total. I'd have to rewatch it. It's been so long, but yeah, it kind of left maybe a sour taste in my mouth the last time I saw it.
Um, I'll go in reverse order. Dark Knight Rises. Saw it in the theater, loved it, but then I rewatched it after buying the Blu-ray, and it was not as good. And you know what? I don't think I have any desire to rewatch Dark Knight Rises ever, because I remember like what happens, and I don't think it's all that great. Honestly, I think some of the fight scenes are poor. I think Christopher Nolan isn't the greatest choreographer, or whoever he hired to do the fight scenes. They're not the greatest. If you rewatch Dark Knight Rises, you'll see. Well, there's no CGI in the movie for the fights too, so that may explain that. It's not like Zack Snyder's action scenes. Dark Knight is a really, really, really good movie. I've already talked about this. Maybe I think it's overrated, yes, but let's talk about the positives. One of the best villains of all time, Heath Ledger. Great pacing, like you said. The cops and robbers, criminals aspect with the justice system is amazing. Great action set pieces. Like I said, the Joker will always be remembered in cinema. Heath Ledger as the Joker. Batman Begins, I saw it at the theater when I was like 13, 14. Phenomenal movie, still holds up to this day. I remember being blown away in the theater. It felt like violent, it felt dark, it was like, scared me a little bit, some scenes. It was really good. Great, like, super quotable lines, be it from Alfred or just Bruce's dad telling him, like, why do we fall? Or maybe that's Alfred who says that. Why do we fall? So we can learn to pick ourselves up. That's just great advice for everyday life right there, folks.
Yeah.
It's a metaphor for everything. Batman Begins, this is my favorite of the trilogy. I don't know. It's a great origin. Nolan's crafted a really, really good superhero trilogy here without going over the top with cosmic and fantasy elements, and like keeping it more grounded, like a realistic Batman. This is the most realistic Batman we've seen, right? It wasn't too far-fetched like the Zack Snyder movies.
Right.
Great trilogy. To say it's one of the best trilogies ever made, I can't contest that. It really is, technically and entertaining-wise. It's very, very solid. So the fact that like he could do this, make all his money, then like can do his own personal projects, like this basically gave him all the credibility he needed for Hollywood to be like, yeah, whatever you want to do for your next movie, Christopher, whatever you want to do, you're good to go, because these movies made a ton of money, right? So what's the next? Yeah,
it'd be Interstellar. And like I love the versatility in his filmmaking approach and the projects that he chooses to deliver. You get a superhero trilogy here. Well, we start off obviously small scale, like his indie film vibes, small budget. That's kind of the grind of any up and coming director, really, when you're trying to make your name known. Trying different things, like going to the magician route, the again non-linear storyline in Memento that we didn't really touch on yet, perhaps, and then doing a superhero trilogy, to then really diversifying in Inception that we've talked about, Interstellar, Tenet, Dunkirk, Oppenheimer. But Interstellar would be the next one for me. That's a theater experience that I'll never forget. I was blown away in theaters at how beautiful that movie looked, the acting, the plot twist at the end, how that all came together. You kind of have to suspend disbelief there with the wormhole and breaking the fourth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is insane, but I'm pretty sure scientists have confirmed that this theory is not that far off or that crazy. Like, it is scientifically backed, which I love that he does his homework for these movies and, again, gives him more credibility in the movies. Matthew McConaughey, amazing in the role. This is where, for me, he was just coming off True Detective, so I was starting to see him as this is when he started to really go on his run of being the top dog actor in all these projects. He was great in that. The supporting cast is awesome as well. And, yeah, it's really the visuals in this one that are striking and leave you with your jaw dropped on the popcorn-littered cinema floor. So it was one of my favorites of Nolan's. Probably my second favorite after The Dark Knight, honestly. Amazing soundtrack that I actually listened to yesterday. I never get tired of that. It's
Nice.
so soothing. Dreaming of the Crash, Chase Through the Cornfield. So many classics.
Where do I begin? To me, Interstellar, it's Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. It's his best movie overall. It's not my favorite, but we haven't mentioned my favorite yet. But Interstellar is, to me, it's like his best made movie. His magnum opus. I just said it. Like that's his highest high. In the theater, I wasn't 100% satisfied after leaving the theater because I was expecting such a different type of movie, more like exploration and different types of stuff. But the more I rewatch Interstellar, it gets better every freaking time I watch it. I give it 5 stars now. It's amazing. Super emotional too. Like the first time I watched it in the theater, I didn't get all like the emotion stuff. It didn't really hit me. But rewatching it, like the scenes with his daughter talking to Jessica Chastain, who's aged now. Oh, it's freaking heartbreaking, and there's some really like exhilarating moments too, like when he's trying to dock one craft onto the spinning other craft, and then the soundtrack kicks in, and that's an amazing piece right there too. Just to see at the beginning on Earth that's like dying, like him talking to the teacher, and it's super well written, basically. It's such a great movie. Super far-fetched at the end, yes. A lot of people's problem is that, it's not real, it's stupid, it's not realistic. Yeah, sure, but it's a movie, okay? So I finally accepted every little convenience in the movie. It's a masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. When they go through the wormhole, oh my God, in the theater, that was like one of my best experiences in the theater, actually. Like on the IMAX, wow. Yeah. It really, truly is a great movie. It's his best made movie. It's a piece. Because it gets better every time I watch it. And yeah, that's Interstellar. Freaking great movie.
Agreed. So I'm curious now to see what your favorite of his is. Because unless you're referring to Memento, that we haven't, like I said, talked about much.
Yeah.
Is it Memento?
Yeah, Memento's in my top 10 of all time. I just have a special place in my heart for that movie. We'll just talk about it now, I guess. Okay. That movie I rewatch constantly, Eric, at least once a year. It's the only movie I watched twice in a row. Once because I was just here the second time, and I was like, there's something about Memento. I'm so engaged in it. As soon as the first scene hits, I'm sucked into the world of Leonard Shelby. I'm so drawn into like what's happening. I love them telling the story as if we were suffering from his condition of memory loss. We presented a story as if we were our main character, piece by piece, not really knowing what's going on till the end. I love that. It's a good gimmick, whatever you want to call it. It's perfect. And Guy Pearce delivers a great performance, and the side characters are great too. Just there's something about Memento that it sucks me in so much that like I'd rather watch Memento than Interstellar, even though Interstellar is a better movie. But like Memento is just so near and dear to my heart, Eric. I know that movie by heart. Like I love it. I like reading about it. It's just a great movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I've only seen it. Well, I think I've seen it twice for sure because I remember you had lent it to me way back when. I watched it alone, and then we watched it with my family not long after. So me now knowing what was gonna happen, what was to come, I was picking up different things, and I had a lot of fun watching it and like seeing what their reaction would be to it. But that was so long ago that I honestly hardly remember what I know the general plot of what the twist is, but I would want to rewatch it, to be honest, because I feel like I'd be like the main character in that I've got some memory loss going on pertaining to exactly what happened in the movie, so I'll be a bit surprised again. So I don't have too much to add on it. Honestly, I just like how they told that story. I'm pretty sure starting at the end, our character has a memory loss condition, and the only way he can remember events that have happened is by taking pictures of them or writing on himself. Like he tattoos himself with code words that have meanings to remind him of, okay, like, you're going to do this or this has happened. Very interesting movie, and I love the way he chose to tell that story. So I have it in, like I said, the great category. I put it as the number one movie in that category, so I also ranked it very highly for Nolan. and just movies in general. Like I love how different it is from your traditional
Nice.
storytelling. Like that'd be the biggest pro I would say for all of Nolan's movies is how he chooses to tell his stories. So unique, such a yeah, so different, and I love it. I was gonna say though, like for the next,
I know it seemed.
go ahead. I was gonna change like go to
I was
another
gonna
movie.
say he's
So
okay. Go for it.
no. Like if you have something to add for Memento, like go for it for sure.
I'll add it for the next movie. It's fine.
Okay, well because like now the next two, like that's why I wasn't sure if Memento would be your favorite one because I was gonna say if Tenet or Dunkirk are your favorite ones, that would have really surprised me because these would be my least favorite of Nolan's movies. I've obviously only seen them once each. I just watched Dunkirk the other day for the first time. I found it to be okay, honestly. Nothing groundbreaking. It had elements that reminded me of Oppenheimer in that there's a certain intensity of about the scenes where there's the claustrophobic element where either a pilot is in a cockpit in a sunken plane and the water's slowly building up and they're trying to get out, the frantic music, the quick cuts away, the look of fear in their faces. A lot of scenes in the movie had these elements that kind of maybe put you in the shoes of the characters at war here. But overall, I was never really invested in the stories of any of the characters. Didn't do a great job hooking me and really wanting to know what was going to happen. To be honest, I was like, just looking forward for the movie to end so I could say I've seen it and to see what was going to happen. So, but it was never wanting to see what happened out of I need to know what's going to happen next. It was more of like, okay, let's get this show on the road here. It's, like I said, maybe my least favorite of his. So thankfully it wasn't too long. An hour and 47 minutes is uncharacteristically short for a war movie, especially. So yeah, Dunkirk it wasn't it for me. I don't think I'll rewatch it to be honest. But what are your thoughts on Dunkirk?
My thoughts on Dunkirk are, it's in the bottom tier for his movies. Like I wouldn't say it's a miss. It's a great sense and visual movie. Just focusing strictly on those, there's nothing wrong with it. It was super fun to watch in the theater. The visuals, the sound, the war stuff was cool. Was not invested into any of the characters though. The jumping between the three timelines was okay at first, but it kind of gets a little jarring after a while, and you stop caring. Sure, it was cool seeing Tom Hardy in the cockpit. That was fun, and the guy on the boat, and then the other soldier, his adventures. It's just not the type of war movie I was expecting. I had such high expectations for Dunkirk in the theater. I was expecting like a war epic like Saving Private Ryan or a movie like Fury. I did not get that. I got more of a sensory like sound and visual experience, cool shots. Didn't really care too much. I wasn't really invested in the story like you. And the second time I watched it, the movie fell flat for me. And I don't.
Oof. Okay.
It's also I had problems with it being PG-13. Like okay, you don't have to go all out violent for a war movie, but like it is war.
It
Bloody,
helps.
it's messy. I didn't get any of that in Dunkirk. He went more for visuals and, like I said, visuals and sound went more for it in terms of like super emotional, like that movie 1917 where there was some like gut-wrenching scenes. I didn't get any of that in Dunkirk.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's my fault for expecting a different movie, but those are my thoughts. Is it could have been so much better.
So
Yeah.
on your point of that about you maybe expecting it to be something different, I have only seen this now for the first time a few days ago, knowing exactly what it would be. I knew it wasn't this epic war movie with a bunch of big set piece action scenes. I knew all that. I knew literally that the highlights of the movie that people had said were, oh, the sound is off the hook and the visuals are great. Like, knowing all of that, it did not make me appreciate either or more. If anything, it made me wish there was more action, and I don't know. It's a disappointing watch, knowing that it wasn't gonna be this extremely exciting movie. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me on Dunkirk. Knowing that you didn't like it more the second time makes me completely sure that I do not want to rewatch this.
Fair enough.
So that would leave one movie now, Tenet, which I watched for the first time last year. Again, I'd put this one in the bottom tier of Nolan. Not a bad movie by any means. I think it's still good. But this is really... Okay, if I said Inception is a movie that tries to be smart, then what's Tenet? Because Tenet is like a full-on mind... you know what. And it's pretty much, I would say, impossible to grasp the plot of this movie without looking up what the explanation is for what happens in the end. Like, there are certain things you can pick up on. Like, I remember the backpack that Robert Pattinson's character has, that has like an iconic string on it. You see that be placed a few times, so you could figure out, okay, like, this was him in another timeline where he ended up or whatever. But a lot of the leaps and conclusions that we get to at the end, while they may be hinted at, not clear at all. And I can respect the director not wanting to give us exposition, say, like, this is that character. He's going to grow up to be this character.
Yeah.
A bit more would be good in this situation, because it's really unclear who's who in the zoo in this situation, in this movie. But, you know, it did a good job at keeping me interested in wanting to find out what was going to happen. I liked Robert Pattinson and John David Washington a lot in this movie, but it was definitely very confusing.
This is an extremely confusing movie, Eric. I've only seen it once at the theater. Like you said, if you think Inception's pretentious, I think Tenet's super pretentious. Because even though I want to learn more, like, after watching the movie, I wanted to, like, read more about it and figure it out. At the end, I'm like, I don't even care, actually, because it didn't hit me that hard. Like, I wasn't that invested. I remember my mom, who saw the movie with me, she was way more into it and trying to figure it out. I was just lost. And I remember the specific point in the movie where I just totally fell off. That never happens to me, rarely happens to me, where I just stop caring and I'm like, I'm going to stop trying to figure it out and just watch and try to enjoy it. But there was maybe subtitles would have helped. And maybe I'm doing this to myself because I watch everything with subtitles there. I'm like, okay, I got to put my, like, game ears on and, like, really try to listen really well. I'm super lazy at home. But no, like, there were some good elements, cool concepts, just way too much, not science, but, like, too much futuristic, like, I don't even remember half of it. I can't even talk about it. What I will talk about is, after Interstellar, Nolan does Dunkirk and Tenet, and I was like, ooh, I was getting a little worried, actually, because I think I enjoyed Dunkirk a little more in the theater than Tenet. But Tenet had a better, more like, intriguing story. It actually has a story. Dunkirk's very light on the story. Yeah. But this is why Oppenheimer I'm super satisfied with. Okay, Nolan, no, he hasn't lost anything. He just tried something different with Dunkirk and Tenet. Tenet is a super ambitious movie. Let's be real here. If Tenet had a couple things, like, edited or trimmed or something less complicated, it could have been like a masterpiece of a movie. Mm-hmm. Super, like, I feel like Tenet is a failed Inception, where Inception didn't go overboard with all that stuff they tried to introduce and all the science behind it and the technology that's way far-fetched. I feel like Tenet just went, cranked it up to 11 with it, and it was too much. Yeah, those are my thoughts on Tenet. A lot of cool reveals and twists at the end where my mouth dropped. I'm like, oh my God, like, all that crap. That was cool. But yeah, it went way over my head. Maybe I've seen thousands of movies. Like, I'm good at picking up what happens, but Tenet, like, confused the living shit out of me, Eric. I was so lost.
Yeah, I love that comparison.
And it was a step down for me. Like, I was a little,
I feel like you said, Inception walked so Tenet could run and then trip a few steps in. But I agree. It tried too hard, and no one loves a try hard. Just be chill, give us some easygoing oppie, and that's kind of why, again, I was a bit going into Oppenheimer thinking it had flop potential coming off Tenet. I hadn't seen Dunkirk yet, but just knowing that it wasn't as revered as some of his previous movies, despite the superstar cast, which we've seen often when a stacked cast is there, doesn't necessarily guarantee that we're going to get a classic. Just look at Amsterdam, or Babylon from all last year. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen either of the movies, but from what I heard, they weren't that great given the cast that they both had. So I felt like Oppenheimer could fit in that pocket. It made its own space outside of said pocket, which I'm glad to see. But yeah, Tenet, not one I'm gonna rush to rewatch again. Honestly, I even wonder how much I'll even get out of it a second time. Watching, I watched with subtitles at home. That didn't really help in my understanding of it, to be honest. But I agree. I feel like movie theaters should just start playing movies with subtitles. When we went and saw Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 in the theater the other day, the first lines of dialogue in the movie, I believe, are in Russian, but then they switched to English, and there were subtitles for the first few lines. And I don't know if this was just a slip up on the production company's side or the movie theater itself. And I thought, like, oh my god, are they going to actually play this with subtitles? I was pumped. They quickly rectified that and took the subtitles away. I was disappointed, but it's all good. Still was able to enjoy the movie, obviously. But yeah, no, subtitles in the movie theater would be huge because sometimes it's hard to hear with the quality of the speakers and how loud it gets. Like, it would help a lot. So yeah, that's a good rundown on all the movies. Like, we got a lot of submissions from people listing what their favorites were. So we've gone through all of them there, but I still want to just give a few shout outs there. So there's a few Inceptions. Nick Seguin, Ezra, and Daniel Rolok both said Inception, all said Inception as their favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Justin Mochtinger said Oppenheimer is his favorite Nolan movie. Mart Chevalier.
Really?
Yeah, I was surprised, honestly. Oppenheimer favorites. Like, yeah. Good pick. Like, it's a great movie for sure, but I was definitely surprised. So no, but still a good pick though, Justin. Next up was from Mart Chevalier. He said The Dark Knight, big Dark Knight guy, so was not surprised there. Then your boy Ginger Swain said, what was up with the choice of making Batman sound like Brian Murray with a bad cold? So not really a pick there, more a take on Batman sounding like Brian Murray, apparently. But I love that. Great contribution there. And then Ezra also said Memento as his other favorite. So Memento got some love there. No Interstellars. Like, I know some people who love Interstellar a lot there. Was maybe expecting to see some of them provide that in there. But yeah, a lot of Inception. Like, that was the most popular pick, was Inception. So I might get torched for my take online. I'll have to hide and not show my face in public for a couple of weeks before it all boils down. But, you know, said what I said. So thanks everybody for the submissions. Sorry.
Is Nolan such a great storyteller, and he's still so young, Eric. We will see many more Nolan movies. I'm very excited for that. We can probably one day, Oppenheimer will only be at like halfway through his whole filmography, and that's pretty exciting, you know, if he has 20 plus movies. The guys in the top tier directors of our time, like Denis Villeneuve and Tarantino and all, we always look forward to a new Nolan movie and can't wait to see what else he's going to do. So JFK, apparently that's his next movie. Yeah.
Is that confirmed, JFK? I thought that was a rumor. I thought that was a rumor.
Yeah,
okay, gotcha. Honestly,
it's a rumor because Oppenheimer is mentioned in Tenet, and then he does Oppenheimer, and then JFK is mentioned in Oppenheimer.
Right.
So maybe he'll do JFK next. Yeah.
Which, to be honest, like, I was just gonna ask you what you'd like to see. What would you like to see Nolan do next? I'll just say quickly for me, I don't really want him to go that route. I don't really want him to do a biopic again. I enjoyed Oppenheimer. I thought it was great, but I would want to see him trying an original concept again, like he did with Tenet, like he did with Inception, which, as I said, I didn't like both those movies, but I would want him to go down that path again. Maybe not try to be that clever with an over-the-top, crazy sci-fi concept, but something different and unique. I don't want to see him do another biopic, just to be clear. I want to see him do something that's unique. And I'm sure if he does go the biopic route or something grounded in hardcore reality, he'll still include his non-linear storytelling style and maybe with a twist in there. But I would like another element of supernatural, like we saw in the Prestige. So, might blurb that out. No spoilers. But yeah, so that's what I would want to see. I don't know what exactly, you're like Interstellar style. But yeah, that's what I would want to see from him.
I kind of agree with you with not doing a biopic because you know what? That's like easy mode for him. Like I feel like Oppenheimer was not that difficult. Like in terms of it's not a giant space movie, it's not Inception, it's not a superhero. There's no big stunts in the movie. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like a detective serial killer movie, maybe another one of those, like a really cool film noir-esque movie. Or I'm down for another Interstellar-esque like sci-fi extravaganza epic. Completely different story. Make it like space traveling, maybe in the future where there's colonies on different planets, something like that. Without going too much into like the superhero realm, though, like I maybe more like grounded in reality in that type of future.
Agreed.
But no, man, he can do whatever he wants. If he loves history that much and wants to make his historical stuff like JFK, if he wants to do a freaking period piece like an ancient Rome movie, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
You know, if he loves history that much, that'd be awesome. Kind of like Ridley Scott does, you know, all these historical epics. But no, I'm excited to see whatever it is, and I'll go see JFK opening weekend if he does a JFK movie. I'll still respect. I like seeing all his movies at the theater now. He's earned that right. He's earned my respect in that regard. So, yeah.
Yeah, of his movies, I actually love that. Actually, a period piece like way back would be pretty sweet. Even throwing it back to maybe the Greek times, or maybe some stories straight out of the Iliad or Homer's Odyssey. That'd be pretty cool. Who knows? A lot of potential. Whatever direction he goes, like you, I'll go see it for sure. So I think I will say though, I don't think we're at the halfway mark of his career. I think he's on the back nine. Like I know he's young, but I just wonder how many more of these movies, like how long they take to film, especially because he only wants to shoot on film, right? Which I love the decision. I think it looks great. But I don't think he has that many more movies in him, to be honest. I could see 5 more movies, but I don't think I think we're past the halfway point for him. I hope I'm wrong again. Hey, that wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong about Christopher Nolan saying that Oppenheimer would be a flop. So again, I'd love to be wrong here. But I don't think he has that much more in him, to be honest.
Yeah, and it is a young man's game. Like, he's 52, but if he only puts one every 3 years, that's like only 6 movies till he's 70 or so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you may be right, actually. It might be ambitious for me to say he's got 10 or 13 more movies. And if he starts cranking them out, the quality is going to dip. We know it. It always happens. Very rarely do directors get better with age, like in their when they become seniors. But no, hey, if his career were to end tomorrow, he has a freaking great filmography.
Oh, yeah.
And will always be remembered.
Definitely.
So, yeah, he's a very ambitious director. Every actor wants to work with him. Probably has like great atmosphere on the set. Probably super like fun guy to talk to. Seems like someone who's, you know, well-read, smart. Maybe he's a huge dick and like a know-it-all. I don't know, but everyone he gets to work with the same people over and over again. So that's got to say something about his person.
Yeah.
Love that the same actor like to work with him too. No, he's a great director. I'm glad we got to talk about his movies today.
Me too.
And it'll be interesting to look back and like when we're older and re-listen to this and be like, oh, what do we think of this movie? How does Inception hold up 30 years from now, right? So
maybe it'll be my favorite movie at that point. Who knows?
Right? Or maybe Tenet will be our favorite movie and we're like, yeah, we watched it 10 times. We finally got it. Yeah.
We finally got it. Yeah. No, for sure. And that's the beauty of takes, right? Like you stick to one and then hopefully things change and go for the best, hopefully there. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen. So that's the great thing about opinions. They can change over time. And sometimes it's good to let go of a take, actually. That's what I should have said. But yeah, I think I'm good to jump over to some recommendations there.
Okay.
On
Yeah.
my end, again, I've been watching a lot, and I'm watching a show right now, which is we've talked about a few times on the pod, which would be the second season of The Bear, which is now all on
Mm.
Disney Plus. I'm enjoying season two quite a lot. I'm only at the halfway
Oh.
mark right now, and I know that the back half is very strong. Like it has a few, like the next episode that I'm at is the one that everyone talks about. Fishes is what it's called. So I'm looking forward
Mm.
to. I might watch that tonight actually. So loving what they're doing in season two. They're changing the style up a little bit. Where season one is really a chaotic season. It's very claustrophobic in the kitchen, and while the characters still deal with a lot of stress in season two, it's handled and presented very differently. And we're getting a lot of good character development for all the different members of the kitchen. They're all getting their chance to
Mm.
shine, which is something I think was missing in season one. So far, I would say season two elevated from season one. So big fan, definitely recommend, Matt. If you have not finished season one,
Ah,
I would recommend to get back on it and then on to season two.
damn. Yeah, I will have to finish season one because there's no way I'm starting season two without finishing
Yeah.
one. I have heard good things on season two, and I like the act. Like it was, yeah. I just like we talked about before, like the chaos. It kind of like got me not wanting to continue, but no, for sure, it's an easy show to watch too. It's like half-hour episodes, not a lot of episodes per season. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to get on that. I mean, I just finished season 4 of Black Mirror, so I got 2 more seasons to go of that. Loving season 4 has been great. I can't remember if I mentioned any episodes of season 4 on other episodes, but I'll just say it again. There's an episode with Jesse Plemons where he's like, he captures people like he takes people that his coworkers and he puts them into this alternate, like it's virtual reality. He basically takes their like AI version of his coworkers and traps them, and he's like the boss in that little world. But
Yeah.
in real life, he's a loser. I'm doing a poor job of explaining the episode, but if
No.
you've seen it, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Jesse Plemons, what a boss. But other great highlights from season 4, like anyways, season 4 has been great. The technology they introduced in Black Mirror, that's what I want to talk about. This writer of Black Mirror, Charlie Booker, his freaking concepts and plausible technology that can be invented in the future is out of this world. Like, I love his ideas, like stuff, if it's just like a chip that records everything, or it's a chip that makes you feel what another person's feeling, or putting a person inside your consciousness too, and they coexist with you. Like stuff like that was really like mind bending to me, and I've never seen anything like it. So it's very late to the party on Black Mirror, but now I'm on season 5, and then season 6 just came out, so I'm gonna be caught up very quickly. Love the cool concepts of the show, and I recommend Black Mirror to anyone. So yeah, that's the TV show I've been watching.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen season 6 yet there, but I'll get on it because I do want to have like a pretty comprehensive list of like the shows that have come out this year. Obviously, can't see everything there, but Black Mirror would be one to get back on.
Right.
For me now, moving over to the music side of things, there's actually a pretty big album that dropped today on the rap side that I've been anticipating for years, which is Travis Scott's Utopia. I have listened to it already twice today in full. It's a pretty long album. I loved it. Honestly, I thought it was a great album. I enjoyed it more the second time too because it's definitely a different vibe than what we've gotten from
Okay.
Travis in the past. And you can definitely tell there's some influence of from Kanye West on this. People are comparing it to Kanye's album Yeezus, which I actually hate.
Oh.
But I think he did a good job at adapting the concepts that Kanye had in there in terms of the production especially, and making music that for me anyways was easier to vibe to. And I was a big fan of what he did on the production side of things. And like I said, I liked it more the second time too. Great album. It was needed for me, especially in this year of rap. It's been pretty weak. So I'm looking forward to re-listening to that on and seeing where it ends up on my list at the end of the year. But very satisfied with it. It was a highly anticipated album. He hadn't dropped one in 5 years. So there's obviously high expectations, big hype for that, and like Oppenheimer, he didn't disappoint. So Travis Scott, Utopia, check it out.
All right, sweet. I didn't see what came out today yet, so I will be downloading that after and listening to it. Yeah, I'm not the big I'm not gonna say I'm not a Travis Scott fan. I just don't know enough about him. Like, I know songs, I can name you songs. I can't talk about any of his albums because I've never listened to a full album of his before, which is crazy because he is a big name, I know.
Yeah.
So I'll be maybe after Utopia I'll listen to his discography. I enjoyed last. You would, yeah.
I would, honestly. Okay. I think all his albums are really good, and they get better with time too. So that's what I did yesterday all day. I listened to all his albums. Like, that was the prep for Utopia, is running it back from Rodeo all the way to Astroworld. I could listen to his 3 solo albums, and so good.
Okay, there's only 3, so that'll be like, it won't take long for me to listen to. But
like, he has a few other albums with other people. Like, he has an album with Quavo that I love as well, and an album with his label, which is just 7 songs. They're not very long, but his solo albums are all very good.
Okay, sweet. Speaking of solo album, last week Magic 2 dropped by Nas, and I really enjoyed that one, Eric. I don't know if you listened to it. We probably have.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it during my workouts, and it's a quick album, great flow, great lyrics. Seems very effortless for Nas. I don't know. It's like he's just cranking them out, cementing his legend. But I like that album too. I recommend that album. It's been a weird year though. I haven't last year and the year before listening to rap like every day before work. But now I've been listening to like a lot of rock. I've been listening to like new rock actually, but I'll get into that at a later date. Nice. And some just the radio. So I don't know, maybe the weaker year like deterred me from listening. Like, my hip hop grinding will probably happen at the end of the year when I'm prepping my list, and I'm going to be listening to really like everything that came out. But so it hasn't been a solid year is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, pretty slow. Like, I haven't been listening to that many albums from this year myself, honestly. I'm either going back to which is strange that that's just how I operate, and that like I try to just stick to albums of the year that I'm in to see where they land on my list at the end of the year. It might be crazy to some people, but that's just how I move. And yeah, it's been like going back to the past a bit more and listening to like non-rap as well. Like, I listen to a lot of movie soundtracks. That's just classic for me when I work, or even they do tasks around the house. So I don't listen to a podcast. Sometimes I'll just throw on like Fellowship of the Ring soundtrack and jam out to Bag End, you know? There's a lot of great songs on those soundtracks and scores, which are also peaceful to listen to. It's not the upbeat, like frantic energy at times. They're just like chill background music. I love it.
What's a soundtrack that people may not know is actually great? Like, what's an underrated one, Eric, that you could like shoot out to the people and to me right now?
It's a good question, honestly, because I normally run the same things. Like, I do Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Twin Peaks. Like, I know people, if you've not seen Twin Peaks, it's a great soundtrack nonetheless. The theme song's classic, and I love like the jazz vibes to it. I am a big fan of that album. Constantly listen to that. What else? I listened to the Gladiator soundtrack the other day after we did our episode there. It got me thinking about that. I'm like, let's check it. It's actually pretty peaceful. It has some upbeat songs, but for the most part, it's very Enya, just slow and good background music. So I'd spin the Gladiator soundtrack. Hans Zimmer, can't go wrong. Yeah, that'd be another recommendation. And something else I've been reading a bit more now. I would recommend it a few episodes ago, the Inheritance Games, the first book in that trilogy. So now I'm actually on the 3rd one in that trilogy, called The Final Gambit, or The Last Gambit. I forget which one it is. But yeah, it's really good. Like, they're page turners, very easy to read. They're short chapters too, like 3-4 pages sometimes. So they all end on like cliffhangers. So they make for very easy and quick reads. And I'm enjoying them a lot. It's kind of young adult, I would say. Like, there's some of your classic like love triangle in there and coming of age. It's interesting. I could definitely see this trilogy being adapted into either a show or a movie series. And if so, like, cast me as one of the brothers, just get me in the mix. Get me in there. But yeah, Inheritance Games Trilogy. I'd recommend that again. Really good.
Nice.
It's fun to read, like, a nice trilogy.
I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot. I remember now the last time you mentioned it, but it escaped my brain. So I have so many things in my head right now. I don't really have much else to recommend. We only recorded last week, so just been rewatching a lot of old movies actually, but I don't care to talk about any of them right now.
Okay.
Just watching old movies I've seen a bunch of times just because why not? It's been years. It's weird throwing a movie you've seen so many times, but you've waited like now 2-3 years, and you throw it on. You're like, oh yeah, I remember every single moment of this movie.
Right.
I didn't lose any of it. Same with when you throw a movie you've seen as a kid. You throw it on now, you'll still remember every freaking line. Like, be it like if it's Uncle Buck or a John Candy movie, Eric, or like The Mighty Ducks, or for me, The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. I'll still remember all the dialogue, and I hadn't seen the movie in 10 years. Just so, like, your child's brain just captured everything and retained it all. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm. That's it for my recommendations.
Yeah, I'd say the same for me. Honestly, those would be the ones I'd impart on everyone. So, thanks everybody for listening. Matt, any final notes for the listeners?
Just thank you guys for listening as well. Eric, great job tonight. It was super fun talking Nolan with you. Hopefully everyone enjoyed our Nolan talk. Let us know what you think of our thoughts on the movie, and have a great summer out there. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks a lot everybody for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to enjoy your summer, and love you all. Peace. Switch up there.